For some children, the first bell of the morning is the start of a brand new adventure. For others, it's the sound of cannon fire signaling the beginning of the battle. And for Nabi, the young protagonist of our story today, it meant only one thing: survival. Every morning, Nabi would wake up before the sun did, already dressed in the same dirty clothes he wore to bed the night before. After tying his one sandal onto his foot, he would grab his battered briefcase made out of an old sack and head out into the world. As he walked down the sandy path leading away from the slums, he'd pass other kids his age, some walking with their parents, others in groups, their laughter echoing in the morning air. Nabi envied them, their carefree spirits, their clean clothes, their shiny shoes. He longed for those things, for a life where he wasn't constantly battling just to survive. School was a battlefield for Nabi, not a battlefield of guns and swords, but of laughter, insults, and invisible wounds. Every morning, Nabi would walk through the muddy paths of Riverland, carrying a small notebook pressed against his chest. His uniform was patched from top to bottom, stitched again and again by his mother's hands. When he reached the school gates, the whispers started. "There he goes, the river boy," someone would mutter. "He doesn't even have slippers." "How pathetic," another would jeer. Nabi kept his eyes low, fists clenched, heart burning, but lips sealed. He had learned that silence was sometimes the only shield for the poor. Inside that silence, however, a fire grew. A fire fueled by the taunts and jabs from his classmates. It echoed the pain he felt, the humiliation, the anger, but Nabi was not the type to let his emotions rule him. He channeled that inner turmoil, focusing it into a single point, studying hard, pushing himself to excel academically. He wanted to prove to everyone, especially to himself, that he was more than just a poor barefoot boy. One day, while walking home from school, Nabi saw an old, tattered book lying on a dusty street corner. He picked it up, brushed off the dirt, and opened it. Inside, he found a faded picture of a girl with flowing hair and kind eyes, along with neat handwritten notes. It was a diary. Nabi knew he shouldn't, but he couldn't resist reading her thoughts, dreams, and fears. He was captivated by the way she poured her heart onto those pages, unafraid, unfiltered. It inspired him to do the same. From that day on, Nabi started writing. He wrote about the taunts at school, the aching emptiness in his stomach when he had nothing to eat, and the times he wished he had someone to stand up for him. Writing became his therapy, his escape, and, most importantly, his weapon. Through his words, Nabi discovered a power he never knew he possessed. He could express himself, tell his story, and connect with others who understood what it was like to feel invisible. As Nabi continued writing, his confidence grew. He started speaking up more in class, answering questions and participating in discussions. His teachers noticed this transformation. His classmates, too, saw a new side of him, one that wasn't defined by his poverty or his silence. They started listening to him, respecting his opinions, and even seeking him out for help. Nabi found allies, friends who valued him for who he was, not what he had or didn't have. However, not everyone was happy with Nabi's progress. There were those who had always held him down, who benefited from keeping him and others like him in their place. They saw Nabi's growing influence, his ability to inspire change, and they feared it. So they tried to discredit him, to tear him down, to make him give up. Despite these challenges, Nabi persevered. He kept writing, kept speaking out, and most importantly, kept believing in himself. He knew that his story wasn't just his, that it represented the struggles of many others who couldn't find their voice. Nabi became a beacon of hope, showing people that no matter how difficult their circumstances were, they could overcome them if they had the courage to keep going. Years went by and Nabi's story took him to places he had never dreamed possible. He became a published author, his books touching the hearts and minds of readers worldwide. He used his platform to advocate for education and equality, reminding everyone that every child deserved a chance at a better future. Looking back on his journey, Nabi realized that it hadn't been easy. He had faced countless obstacles, experienced unimaginable hardships, and carried the weight of his circumstances on his young shoulders. But he also knew that it was those very struggles that had shaped him, that had given him the strength, resilience, and empathy that made him who he was. He thought about the girl in the diary, the one who had poured her heart onto faded pages without fear. He wondered if she, too, had faced challenges, if she, too, had ever doubted herself. He hoped that she had gone on to live a good life, that she had found her happily ever after. Nabi sat down to write, as he always did, pouring his thoughts onto the page. Today, though, something was different. As his pen flowed across the paper, he felt a sense of calm he hadn't known before. He was content with who he was, with what he had achieved, and most importantly, with the legacy he was leaving behind. He looked out the window of his cozy home, a far cry from the dilapidated shack he once lived in, and smiled. In the distance, he could see children playing, their laughter echoing in the wind. He remembered when he, too, had been one of those children running carefree through the streets, his laughter mingling with the rest. Nabi closed his eyes, letting the memories wash over him. He had come a long way, but he knew his journey was far from over. As long as there were children who needed a helping hand, who needed a voice, Nabi would be there for them. He would continue writing, sharing his story and inspiring others to do the same, because Nabi knew that every story mattered, every voice had something to say, and every child deserved a chance to shout it from the rooftops. In the grand tapestry of life, Nabi's story is just one thread, yet it's a thread that shines brightly, illuminating the darkness and reminding us all of the power of hope, the strength of resilience, and the importance of using your voice. Through his story, we learn that poverty doesn't define a person, that silence can be a powerful ally, and that writing can be both a therapy and a weapon. It's a testament to the human spirit, proving that no matter how challenging our circumstances are, we have the power to change our lives and inspire others to do the same. As we reflect on Nabi's journey, let us remember that every small step, every word written, every voice raised matters. Let us be like Nabi, unafraid to speak up, to share our stories, and to fight for a better future, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. Because in Nabi's story, we find our own, a story that reminds us that no matter where we start, we have the power to reach for the stars.